You are now listening to the War Report Podcast Network.
The Oklahoma Sooners look to end this year, this 2024 year, off with a bang and off with a win in their bowl game against Navy. Let's talk about it here on the Sooner Spotlight. Welcome in, Sooner Nation, to another episode of Sooner Spotlight, your all-access pass to all things Oklahoma Sooners athletics. So excited to get into this one. I'm your host, Josh Mahler. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at @RealJoshMahler over there if you want to follow me on there for all updates on the show and so much more. Just a quick update. Congratulations to Ryan Schaefer. He was the one who won our giveaway contest, so awesome stuff there. He ended up winning 2 free tickets over to the Armed Forces Bowl. I even was going to be able to make it myself, but because of holiday, all that kind of stuff, just not able to make it down to the bowl game. But congratulations to Ryan Schaefer. He was able to make it down there. He's able to win those 2 free tickets to make it down there, go to Fort Worth to go to the bowl game. We have a lot more giveaways that we want to do. The best way for me to reach out to you guys as listeners is over on X, on social media, formerly known as Twitter. So if you want to go over there and give me a follow, that's the best way to kind of keep up to date with all that kind of stuff. We try to post it here on YouTube and stuff like that, but best way to for us to get a hold of you is posting it on social media. We'll have better ways in the future, but huge thanks to everyone who participated in that. That was a huge way for us to kind of just get our name out there, kind of grow the show just a little bit, grow the channel, and it worked. So thank you to everybody. Make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let's talk about the bowl game here on the Sooner Spotlight. Oklahoma going against Navy, obviously not really the season that we hoped for it to be. Obviously, it's another 6-6 season. You go back 2 seasons ago, we were in that 6-6 boat, but that 6-6 felt like, hey, at least we did something with this season with, the complete disaster that we had. And, Brent Venables' first year taking over. And so it kind of felt a lot different than the 6-6 did this year. This year, it just felt like, hey, it was a disaster, but it shouldn't have been. Obviously, the injuries and everything that went into it definitely hurt us in the long run. But, the 6-6 season this year, we don't want to end it with a losing season. I think that's why this bowl game means so much to Oklahoma fans, to Sooner Nation, is because we can't end this with 2 out of 3 of the seasons being losing seasons. I was actually just discussing this online with somebody, but it's one of those things where you have to end it with end this season, end this year on a good note. You have to end this year with a win, and especially with everything that we've got going forward, it's going to be a tough one. It's going to be fun to look at this, and honestly, it's going to be a lot of young guys playing tomorrow morning, I guess tomorrow afternoon, whenever we get to it. It's going to be a lot of fun to see all these guys. So with over 20 players hitting the transfer portal this offseason so far, this leaves us with only 56 scholarship guys on the field on Friday. That's absolutely insane to think that we've only got 56 guys that are going to be scholarship guys on the field. Obviously, you've got your walk-ons and guys that aren't scholarship players, but it's just crazy. There's 24 freshmen that have those scholarships. So 24 of those 56 scholarships are freshmen. There's going to be 12 on offense, 12 on defense. Now, obviously, not all of them are going to be on the field, but it's going to be very interesting in this bowl game to see this young crew, and I think it does give us a little bit of momentum, a little bit of a look ahead into next season. Whenever we look into next season and what we've got, because a lot of these guys that are coming on, that are going to be playing in the bowl game, those are going to be the same guys that we're going to roll into next season with, at the very least, into our depth positions that we really need. And so it gives them a little bit of playing experience. It gives them a little bit of time to get in there and do something. And so I'm excited. I'm excited to see all these guys. First, some of the guys that we've heard from throughout the season, we've got offensive lineman Heath Ozeta and Logan Howland going to be out there, 2 very young guys, I believe both redshirt freshmen. So very excited to see both of them. Logan Howland had a really good end of the season, and we saw a lot of him towards the end, and he did really good job in kind of strengthening that offensive line when we really needed him. So excited to see him out there. And then, of course, over at the wide receiver / slot, we'll see Jacob Jordan, who we've heard his name. Outside of him, it's not going to really be names that we've heard of very much this season. But then you also have running backs Taylor Tatum and Xavier Robinson in there. I heard, some mixed reports on Gavin Sawchuk as if maybe he's not going to be playing, which means that we should see plenty of these two and maybe even more out there. So we'll see who all we end up seeing on the field. And I don't know how many of these guys are going to be playing. The guys that are older, maybe if they're upperclassmen, they might not be playing at all. And if they're not playing, we might be able to expect not to see them next season. That's kind of the telltale here in this game. And then, of course, at quarterback, we're going to have Michael Hawkins playing. I assume that we might even throw Casey Thompson in there just because this will be his last collegiate game. I don't think he's got any more years of eligibility left. The dude's been in college football for 24 years now, but he might get into the game, and I would expect him to be in the game regardless of how it's going. Just to throw him in there and say, hey, go ball out on your last possible chance in college. And he's not going to the NFL. He's getting into coaching. That's why he came to Oklahoma. He didn't really come here to play, but he did come here to learn how to coach. And I hopefully he did a lot of that on the sidelines. You did see him. He's been that hype man on the sidelines all season long, going up and talking to the quarterbacks, whether it be Jackson Arnold or whether it be Michael Hawkins, and going up to them and talking to them, seeing how they're doing, and maybe giving them some advice, maybe helping them understand, hey, did you see this? This is something that you did wrong. And he is very knowledgeable. He's very experienced in college football. He knows the rights and wrongs of college football. So he's been a good addition, whether we realize it or not. He's been a good addition just over on the sidelines. So excited to see what we see from him. But then guys that we haven't heard from all season, starting off on offense, we're going to have wide receivers Zion Reagans and Ivan Carrion, which are two guys that I think they've both seen time on the field, but they haven't really had their names called really at all this season. And two guys that we had a lot of high hopes for being depth players. Of course, with everything that went on this season, it just feels like the passing game wasn't really existent at all for the Oklahoma Sooners. So very excited to see these two guys, and hopefully we can get them some reps, actually get them the ball. And this is a Navy defense. I'll talk about them in just a second. This is a Navy defense. It's pretty good. So if we could pass the ball and pass it efficiently, especially when we're using these guys, I think that would be really important to be able to work these guys into it, and kind of utilize this. This isn't a big-time game. It's not even a big-time bowl game, nothing like that. But it would just be nice to be able to get their feet wet and get them feeling confident going into this offseason. And then, of course, in the offseason, they're going to be working on their own. They're going to be doing a lot of things either on their own or with other teammates. And maybe this can kind of get them pumped up, feeling like, hey, this is our time. This is our time to shine. And this bowl game, I mean, honestly, it's even kind of their time to shine and say, hey, Ben Arbuckle, I know you're our new offensive coordinator. You're watching us from the sidelines. This is what I can do without your help. What can you do to help me out, to kind of excel my game even more? Because this is what I'm capable of at the very least. How much more can you put into me? That's something that they've got to have going through their minds. And I'm sure Ben Arbuckle's probably had discussions with these guys so far since he got to Norman. But it's going to be really interesting, to say the least, just to look over and kind of see everything that's going on. So as far as wide receivers, I'd love to see what we get from Zion Reagans and Ivan Carrion. I'm sure we'll see a couple of other guys out there as well. But we'll also have a new tight end that I don't think we've seen at all this season, and that being Devon Mitchell. Devon Mitchell is a guy that he's very big. He's a big-bodied man with soft hands. He's talented enough that he could have been a good tight end this season. Got himself into a little bit of trouble with grades and trying to transition over to being a college athlete. And, him and Brent Venables had some talks early on in the season. He said, hey, I want you to redshirt this year. I want you to work and get yourself right for next season. He's now gotten himself to the point where I think we're going to see him on the field, maybe a little bit, not too much. But then, of course, we've got Jake Roberts, Caden Helms possibly out there as well. So excited to see what these guys are able to do. And who knows who else we're going to see on the field too. It's going to be a totally new offense, really. Of course, the offensive line is going to be pretty similar. We're not going to have a few guys that ended up hitting the transfer portal, but overall, the offensive line is going to look pretty similar. Outside of that, you're going to look very new. You're going to have Jacob Jordan out there, like I mentioned, and then you're probably going to have Xavier Robinson, Taylor Tatum kind of switch out the way that we've seen towards the latter half of the season. So as long as Taylor Tatum can keep a hold of the ball, I'm very excited to see what he's able to do going forward. Obviously, we know what we can expect from Xavier Robinson, looking absolutely phenomenal, specifically in that Alabama game where he really shined. I think that was kind of his coming out party. Like, hey, look who I am. Look at what I can do. And so very excited to see him there. There's going to be some other guys, too, that I'm sure I left off that list. But over on the defensive side of the ball, we'll talk about our defense real quick, and then we'll get to the chat. So make sure to jump in that live chat, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Those are a couple of things that we encourage you. It definitely helps us out a lot more than you realize. So just hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And hey, if you can, share this on social media. Let people know that we're talking right now and that they can also jump in the live chat. This is a show that we pride ourselves. We want to be talking with you guys as fans. I'm a fan of myself. I'm not in college sports. I'm not a coach, nothing like that. Not in college, not at the college level. So it's a show for fans. We want to engage with you, not just talk at you. So please jump in that live chat. Let me know. Give me your score predictions, what you're concerned about the game, what you're looking forward to about this game. Throw all that down in the live chat. We will try to get to as many as possible. But over on the defensive side of the ball, Des Malone, Kenai Walker, and Dasan McCullough, they're all gone. They've gone on. They've moved on. And there's a few other guys I think that were kind of possibly not playing. I know for sure we've got Billy Bowman and Danny Stutzman that are sitting out, but they still made the trip down to Fort Worth with the team. They're not going to suit up or anything, but they still made the trip, sitting out to kind of preserve themselves. They're both very high draft picks. They're both capable of being high draft picks. I think Danny Stutzman, obviously, it seems like he's probably a first rounder, so I think he goes first round. Where, Billy Bowman, I haven't seen too much on him, but I would imagine second or third round would not be out of the realm of possibility for him. So they're just trying to keep themselves healthy. It's a smart move, and that's kind of been something that's always been the case. If you can move on to the NFL, it doesn't really make sense to hurt your stock by getting injured in a bowl game, especially in a bowl game like this that really doesn't matter too much. Specifically for those players, and even for the school. It's not like this is a big time bowl game. So I don't fault them one bit, but the fact that they still came down to Fort Worth to support the team is something that I find really interesting, and I appreciate that out of them because it shows how much of a leader they've been to this program, how much they love the school, and, showing their support for their team. I think that's an incredibly, underrated thing right now. So awesome to see that from Billy Bowman and Danny Stutzman, and I think a few others as well. But those are the two notable ones. So over on at DB, because of Billy Bowman being out, at DB we're going to see guys like Michael Boganovsky, Jaden Hardy, Jeremiah Newcomb, and even Devon Jordan, all true freshmen. I believe all true freshmen. There might be some redshirt freshmen in there as well, but all of them are freshmen nonetheless, which is really awesome. We're going to have a bunch of DBs to throw out there that are freshmen. We've already got Eli Bowen, who showed up this season, and love to see that from him. But then seeing these guys, Michael Boganovsky is known to be a heat-seeking missile. He comes flying down with full speed and making big-time collisions. Want to see more of that. Hopefully he can protect himself in the process, not do something like what Gentry did and end up hurting your shoulder. I think Dasan McCullough even hurt himself just being too aggressive. But hopefully these guys can all stay healthy. Boganovsky's one of them, and he loves to get in there and get aggressive, which I love to see. I love to see that from players, especially today, but definitely got to keep yourself healthy. Over at the, let's see here. Really on defense, I think that's all. I'm looking through here, and I don't really see a whole lot of other names that we're not going to recognize extremely well, other than the DB room. So everything else seems to be pretty locked up. We're going to see some guys that we've seen in all season long. But we're obviously going to see our veteran leadership and guys like Kobe McKenzie and Kip Lewis over at linebacker. Since Danny Stutzman won't be in, I'm sure both of them will get plenty of reps. I'm not sure how much Jaron Kanek will be on the field. I don't know, but he's definitely been involved in the social media game. If you've been paying attention to social media, specifically his at all, you've seen what I mean by that. And then over at the Cheetah, of course, with Desan McCullough leaving, of course, Kendall Dolby still healing up. We're going to see guys like Lewis Carter and Samuel Osomigo, which we've seen plenty of them all season long, but going to see those guys. Those are kind of all that veteran leadership, those guys that have plenty of snaps, kind of older guys. So very excited to see what all they do. But overall, I mean, outside of the defense, it's going to be a really new looking team, which means don't place any stupid bets on this game. I'm one. I love sports gambling. I love the game of it. I love to put in a wager or two, and I've done pretty well at it. And one thing that I can always recommend, because I know people who struggle with it, be very smart about it, because they start to look at spreads and stuff like that. The spread went down a lot. It started off at 8.5. I think it went down to 2.5 point spread in favor of Oklahoma. The money line is very, very similar right now, but just be careful if you are one like me, because I look at games like this and I say, you know what, I'm not going to touch it, because there's so much that could just go completely haywire in this game. It's a very crazy game overall. But I'm going to jump to the live chat real quick. So if you guys haven't already, jump in that live chat. Let's see here. Looks like Comanche Sooner. I think it's going to be a close final, being 31-28 OU, win versus Navy in overtime. Overtime, really. I like that. I do like that score prediction quite a bit. I will release my score prediction, my final and official score prediction here at the end. But yeah, I like that one quite a bit. 31-28 in overtime. That'd be fun. I'm all for it. And Navy is a pretty good team. They're 9-3 for a reason. They've had some easy competition. But their most recent game, the Navy Army game, they ended up whooping Army, who was a good team all season long. Their only loss was to Notre Dame, ended up winning the conference against Tulane. So, I mean, the fact that Navy beat Army the way that they did, handling business, that's a really good team. So, I mean, it's a team that we can't overlook, and it's the Naval Academy. Anytime you go against one of these armed force teams, it seems like you have to be really careful. But yeah, I like that one quite a bit, especially in overtime. That'd be a lot of fun to watch, especially if we can win it in overtime. Let's see. Bellon 2005 says Oklahoma 21-13. Okay, so Navy 13. Okay, so Oklahoma winning. Like to see the optimism. I've seen a lot of pessimistic looking takes, which it's not insane to say that you think that Oklahoma would lose this game either. Like I said, Navy is a pretty similar, a pretty decent team, and this is an Oklahoma team that's been bad all season long, specifically on offense. And then on top of that, it's a totally new looking offense. It's a bunch of guys that really haven't played a whole lot this season. Bill, yeah, I'm just gonna say Billion 2005 says we need tight ends and wide receivers bad, fellas. Yeah, we picked up a couple. We picked up a couple on the portal that I think are going to be pretty good additions. I'm not sure if we talked about them on the show or not, but if not, we'll make sure to talk about them. But as far as tight ends, I know we didn't mention our tight end. We have a tight end to add to the room, and I have mixed feelings about him, but we will talk about that later on for sure. Sooner Cowboys, regular to the show, says Navy 21, OU 13. Yeah, I mean, hey, you're right on line with what I just said. I don't think it's crazy to say that we're not going to win, because I mean, the last two bowl games with Brent Venables, we lost. So if you want to take history into effect, and then on top of that, you just look through and see who's going to be playing in this bowl game. It's a bunch of guys that haven't really played all season. And it's going to be a new feel to the offense, even if it's guys that have gotten playtime separately. They haven't been playing together other than this 3 or 4 weeks of practice that they've gotten to prepare for the bowl game. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Going back to Sooner Cowboys real quick, because he has another good comment here. He says, really don't need to finish 6-7 again. BV go 0-3 in bowl games, but I think Navy wins tomorrow. Yeah, no, I don't think you're crazy. I don't think you're crazy at all. I think it's pretty reasonable. Like I said, it's a good Navy team, and we're beat up, and we're just this isn't the same team that we've seen all season either. So it's not even like the team that's gone against the SEC competition. It's a bunch of freshmen, a ton of freshmen out on the field, and We lost a lot of our production to the transfer portal, so which is not a bad thing. And I've already mentioned that it's not a bad thing. That's okay for this season. Going back to Billy on 2005 says Hawk is going off tomorrow. You just watch. I would love to see it. And I think this would be the game for Michael Hawkins to go off on because, he's got this new guy, John Mateer, coming in to compete with him. He wants to really impress Ben Arbuckle right now because there is, as of right now, there is a battle. There's a QB battle. And depending on how tomorrow goes, hey, we may not have a QB battle if Michael Hawkins does not look good at all. If he ends up throwing 3 interceptions, fumbling the ball or something, three turnovers. If something goes crazy, with his game, then hey, it's very possible that we do not have a QB battle, and that's if Michael Hawkins does bad. If Michael Hawkins does well and he goes off like you think, then I think we do have a QB battle, and it's going to be a really interesting one to keep an eye on next season. So let's see. One more comment. We got Jimmy Satterfield says 31-13 OU. There's some optimism. I even see him and Sooner Cowboys kind of chatting it out too. That, hey, we're not going to lose tomorrow. All right, we're going to win this thing. I've got mixed feelings about it. I feel like this is a game that it does matter. It does, and it's not a bowl game that we're excited about, but it's a game that matters, and we need to win this one. Mainly because, Brent Venables is already his seat is warming up. He knows that. We all know it. The Ben Arbuckle hire, I think, was a good one. It's going to tell next season. He's not going to be really coaching much at all, if any, in the bowl game. I think I saw that he might have been designated as a QB coach since Kevin Johns ended up moving on. So I think he might be working as a QB coach. But for the most part, Joe John Finley has got the offense all to himself. So going to be very interesting, to say the least. But guys, keep that chat going. We will jump back to the chat in just a second. But going over to what to expect from Navy. I think with Navy, and I saw somebody mention it in the comments too, that they've got a crazy offense. They've got that triple option offense that's very difficult and confusing to stop. And if you think about Oklahoma, we're good at stopping the run. What we have not been the best at is stopping that option play. There's been several times where we should have taken the QB off and we didn't, or we took the QB off but didn't wrap up in the backfield on the running back. And, I think it's going to take an all-out effort from this defense. And if you think of certain guys like R. Mason Thomas, who's been outstanding on the edge, and think of guys like him, he's been outstanding on the edge specifically, and him and Trace Ford, I think specifically in the pass rush. There's not going to be a whole lot of that in this game. They're going to have to really adjust what they're good at to this triple option offense. While with Oklahoma's going to have a completely new looking roster, Navy, specifically on offense, Navy's going to look like they're at full strength with almost the exact same roster that they've had all season long. They're going to have a very similar offense. And starting with Navy's defense, because we'll talk about that triple option offense and how tricky it can be, but specifically with their defense, because that's the struggle with Oklahoma all season long, and of course it's going to be the struggle going into this bowl game with a new offensive look as far as the depth chart goes. So, with Navy's defense, they hold teams to 22.3 points per game this season. It's pretty dang good. 22.3. I mean, that's up in the really close to the right in the middle of the pack, maybe just above the middle of the pack of the entire FBS. I think if you can be in the top 60 or top 50 defenses in points per game, you're doing pretty good, because it starts to get really close and narrow. They're like right around 64, 65, something like that last I checked. And so, they're not that far behind a lot of these pretty good defenses. I'm not saying that they're a great or outstanding defense, but they're good enough to hold teams to 22.3. And guess what? Oklahoma has only scored 24.3 points per game all season long. Has not been the same Oklahoma offense that we've been used to in years past. So that's something to keep an eye on, something to look at, is that this Navy defense is pretty good. And the offense, is really going to have a really different look to it. Just like I mentioned, with all these freshmen playing, and they're going to have 6th, 7th string wide receivers, which of course isn't a whole lot different than we had all season long. But it's going to be different. It's going to feel different. It's not going to have the same chemistry that they've had all season long. And so this is something to take a look at. And I don't know, maybe we're totally wrong and this offense just clicks because they've had so many guys leave that they said, hey guys, we need to narrow down, and we're buckling in on this, we're pun not intended. So maybe we're totally wrong and this offense just goes off, but it's going to look different. It's going to be difficult for this offense to really get going. But as far as Navy's defense, they got guys like Colin Ramos as their star linebacker, who on the season had 117 tackles this season. Had a few tackles for a loss. Just looked really good, just solid, plugging the holes that he needs to plug, making contact and bringing guys down at first contact. He's a solid tackler. He's one of those guys that I worry with the running backs that, hey, specifically Taylor Tatum, who's had issues throughout in the past of fumbling the ball. You've got to keep a hold of the ball, and that's a big thing. And real quick, I'll go to Sooner Cowboys comics. I saw that pop up. They never had any chemistry. That's what a lot of the problem was. Yeah, they never had any chemistry, but that was the offense that we had. I don't know. Maybe this 3 or 4 weeks of just solid practicing is going to help build up that chemistry. I don't know. Maybe we're totally surprised by the way this offense looks. But anyways, going back to Navy's defense, they've also got Deshaun Peel, who's a Power 5 caliber talent and just, overall very solid cornerback. He's a DB that flies all over. He's had 5 interceptions this season. 2 of them returned for touchdowns and 168 yards on those interceptions. That's absolutely insane. That's like Billy Bowman last year numbers almost. Very close to it. That's a really good season. So, he's been picking guys off, breaking up passes, being in there and tight coverage and making big plays. So, if we're going to try to get this passing game going, maybe not going towards Deshaun Peel. They've also got a safety, and I forgot to write him down on my notes, but they've got a safety that's very good too, like NFL caliber safety. Like he's a talented enough to go to the NFL. I don't know how high of a draft pick or anything. This defense is one that's going to be tough for the offense to move on. Going over to Navy's offense, again, like I said, they're going to have that triple option offense, and it's going to be kind of tricky to stop. It's going to be something that's going to favor the midshipmen, and it's going to be really tough for Oklahoma to stop this because of how many guys that they have to pay attention to at all times. One thing that I think is nice is that, we've had some time in the offseason to kind of heal up, rest up, get prepared for this. And of course, the last couple of weeks been practicing, really probably 2.5, 3 weeks worth of practicing here, specifically for this offense, because we know what they're going to run. We know what Navy's capable of in that triple option. And so, it's something that we're gonna have to stop. And we'll talk about how to do that in just a second. But going on with their offense, they've got really one guy that really stands out, and he's the leading rusher, the leading passer, obviously being the quarterback, but it's Blake Horvath, and he's just an absolute monster, total stud. He's 4th in the country in rushing yards among all QBs, 4th. He's got 1,153 rushing yards. That's better than a lot of quarterbacks, a lot of running backs in the nation. He's also 15 plus. He's got 15 plus rushing yards. Rushing attempts. When he breaks out for 15 or more rushing yards in one run, he's got 17 of those this season. That also ranks 4th among all quarterbacks in the country. So this is a guy that can use his legs, and they're going to design it specifically for him to use his legs. He also had a really big game against Army with 204 yards on the ground with 2 touchdowns. He's just a stud, and he's tough. He's tough to bring down. He's a big body dude who just loves to make contact, loves to plow through contact. And the good thing is he reminds me a lot of Jalen Milroe. It's just that they're going to use him in a way that Jalen Milroe was not being used. Jalen Milroe was not really being designed to run the ball. There wasn't a whole lot of QB run plays that Alabama was running. that was a lot of stuff that he was just kind of trying to improvise, and we had guys like Danny Stutzman stepping up or Ethan Downs stepping up, a few other guys that were put on to spy Milroe that ended up doing a really good job of it. I think Kip Lewis even kind of in spy quite a bit during that game. So, I mean, it's not going to be the same look. It's going to be a true running quarterback, Jalen Milroe type skill, maybe not as fast. I'm not making the comparison there, but as far as what he can do on the ground, Jalen Milroe-esque, and it's going to be designed to set him up for success. So we have to keep an eye on him. We have to watch him. I would expect that he has more than 70 yards rushing by himself on this Sooners defense. As good as we are on defense, specifically at stopping the run, I wouldn't be surprised to see him run for 70-plus yards. But going on to Oklahoma, what can we expect from the Sooners? Obviously, a very similar defense. Not much is going to be changing on the defense. We can trust our DBs, the entire secondary, to kind of do their job and do things right. But as far as what we need to do, obviously we got to load the box. You got to load the box. You also have to kind of keep guys in that second level free to jump on to the next guy and watch for the reverse. That's something they're going to try to throw at us. And also for the DBs just to keep on their assignment. You've got to keep on your assignment. You've got to see the run, but you can't abandon the pass just because you think it's a run, because Navy knows that Oklahoma's smart enough to do that, and they're going to try to utilize that as some kind of second pass option. They're going to hand the ball off on a triple option play, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, the third guy that got the ball ends up passing the ball downfield. And this is something that we're going to have to watch out for. So it's just as much as specifically the safeties staying on their duty, and then when it comes to that second level, just being able to move around, being able to be fluent, and finding who has the ball very quickly. That's something that we're going to have to do. And obviously the biggest one, finishing tackles. That's been something that has been a struggle in certain games that we've lost. I think Missouri was one of them where we weren't tackling a guy behind the line of scrimmage when we should have. I think LSU was a really bad one where we weren't getting a guy down when we should have in the backfield. You've got to get them down on first contact, and these are big dudes. These are dudes that are going to be very tough to bring down, and so we've got to bring them down on first contact. You got to finish through the tackles. Over on the offense, we're going to have all that newness, a very new look to the offense as far as the numbers that you're going to see on the field, when you're going to see them on the field, maybe even where they're lining up. You're going to see a lot of newness out there on the field. But I don't think that we're going to see a whole lot in terms of schemes, in terms of formations, in terms of really anything that we've run in the past throughout this season. I don't think it's going to look much different. I think we're going to dumb that playbook down a lot, and I think we're going to run a ton. And that's something that we should we should look forward to. I would like to kind of see a similar game plan to what we kind of ran against Bama. Again, bringing that one up because I think this is a very similar situation where we've got Michael Hawkins, who I think is just as fast as Jackson Arnold, but he's much more athletic. And not to take anything away from Jackson Arnold and his legs, we saw what he was capable of, but I think Michael Hawkins is just much more athletic and capable of staying up on contact. There's little things where you see him kind of spin out. He's tough and isn't scared to jump up and get hit into the end zone. I don't know how many times he's done that this season where he's jumping up, trying to make the line to gain, and ends up getting knocked around in the air a few times against Tennessee. Did it against Auburn. I think he might have even had a couple of times where he was trying that against Texas. So there's such a different aspect to that run game, to that designed run game that we could have with that quarterback run. I would really like to kind of flip the script and maybe only pass the ball 20 or less times and just utilize that run game and maybe flip the script in terms of triple option, not necessarily running the triple option offense, lining up in an I formation, anything like that. Nothing crazy where we're changing up our playbook, but specifically just going in there. I would like to see this offense just utilize the read option, utilize the QB draw, utilize just different things where we can use Michael Hawkins and his athleticism, his speed, his capability to run, because we know that he can use his legs. And as long as, he's not known for fumbling the ball. He's known for throwing it into bad coverage, and into tough coverage. That's more what he's known for. So let's keep the ball on the ground and do the right thing. Real close here. All right, Jimmy Satterfield says Hawkins is definitely better athlete than Arnold. Yeah, I think that's true. Jackson Arnold is way more of an athlete than I think most people would give him credit for. But Hawkins has just got a different look to it. They're both about the exact same speed. It's just Michael Hawkins can stop on a dime and change directions. Michael Hawkins can spin around a dude. He can slip out of the tackles, where Jackson Arnold wasn't really good at that. That wasn't really his game. His game was more being smart, get down, and he got tripped up. He definitely had some issues fumbling the ball. I will give him that. He definitely had some issues fumbling the ball, which is something that I don't think we'll see too much of from Michael Hawkins really throughout his career. I don't think he's going to let go of that ball and fumble it. And I think he learned his lesson from the South Carolina game too, where, man, I can only imagine the feeling that's got to feel. That sucks to go out that way. Go out there and just start that game off that rough. So I do think, and now with all the talk online, I don't know how much of an online presence he has, how much he's on there looking at what Sooner fans are saying, but it's very loud and very clear, very evident that Oklahoma fans were extremely excited to get John Mateer coming in through the portal. That I don't know what that feels like to Michael Hawkins. Is it a motivator? Or is it kind of a cut down? Like, man, I've been here. I stuck it out. I said I want to stay here regardless of who comes in, and you guys still go towards him and almost kind of crowning him the starter regardless. And so that's where I kind of see maybe that competitor coming out in him, and hey, this is my time to shine right now when I have the chance and make this a QB battle going into the offseason. But overall, score prediction, like I said, Navy's a good team. And I went back and forth. I really would not be surprised if Oklahoma comes out and just loses this game. It's just I have a lot of faith in this defense. I do. And Sooner Cowboys, that's one thing that I think you just got to put faith in that defense. I would not be surprised if this defense caused turnovers in this game. If they went out there with a fire and caused turnovers, maybe score off a turnover. I don't know if that's possible. But I would expect to see a couple of turnovers from this defense. I really want to see that. And I think that's very, very likely. It's a possibility. So I would like to see this defense go out there, cause some turnovers, and I think Oklahoma ends up winning this game. I'm going to hit the over. I think it's at like 43.5. And I want to say Oklahoma scores 34 points. I don't know if any of that comes from the defense. I think it will come as a help from the defense. I think we're just going to try to light it up. I think we're going to go out there and try to show that we, hey, we've got to end this, put the end of this season in a, whatever I'm trying to say here. My words aren't coming out correctly, but we've got to end 2024 with a bang and just go out saying, hey, we put it all on the field. We put everything that we had into this game, and we can end 2024 knowing that we won. So I'm going to say 34-18. Navy is very capable of getting into the end zone. They're going to waste a lot of time on the clock with that triple option offense as well, and we're very familiar with that whenever we've gone against Army in the past. In fact, we're actually 0-1 against Navy. It's been a very long time since we played them, but it's going to be very interesting. I'm very excited for this game. Just because it is a bowl game, just because it's the last time that we're going to see the Sooners. I'm excited to see what this young talent is able to do out there on the field. And, I think overall we've got to be loud. We've got to be proud of this team and the way that they've turned around certain things towards the end of the season. We weren't able to get big wins. We got the Alabama win and got blown out by LSU. Really didn't do a good job at all. And, I think overall, though, you see small tweaks that we've done that seem to have gotten better. The offensive line improved a lot, and specifically with these young guys that have gotten a chance to play really in the last 4 games of the season, we've seen some improvement on the offensive line. We're now starting to turn a page with this receiver corps that we have to recognize that we got rid of. We let some of those guys go because they're just banged up. What good are they going to do if they come in next season and they're out in the second game of the season? And so we have to recognize that. So this game is going to tell us a lot going into next season. And I think it's going to tell us quite a bit of of how much fire these guys have in him, to turn things around for next season. How hard are they going to fight? One more real quick. We'll go back to Sooner Cowboys one more time. He says it's going to be it's going to be a high scoring game. I think it could be a 17-7 game as well. Yeah, I think it's going to be high scoring too. I think the defense is going to be good enough because it's not going to be much of a difference on defense. I think our defense is going to be good enough to keep them to kind of lower scoring. I still think they can get into the end zone a couple of times. And I'm not sure how all their scoring comes about, but I'm giving them right around 18. It's always kind of a rough score. I kind of give or take 4 points on either side, one way or another. So 34-18 is what I'm going with. I'd like to see the Oklahoma Sooners come out and do it in a good fashion. Man, if we could put up 40 points, how good would that feel going into the offseason? At least we could see some young guys perform and see them do well. But guys, thank you all so much for tuning in. Make sure to hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Thank you all so much. Make sure to go over to Soonerspotlight.com for all of our content. You can also check out our merch store. So much more over there, so go check it out. You can also give us a like, a subscribe, 5-star review over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thank you all so much for all the love, all the support. We'll catch you next time. Boomer.